Hi, good morning everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining our kitchen shower this morning. This is our first time going virtual, so if any hiccups have happened along the way, just bear with us. But we're very excited to have you guys here. Today we're going to be talking about a few things. If you've come to kitten showers in the past, you'll have a kind of an idea of what we're going to be doing today. But I'm going to first begin talking about our foster program in general. Just for anybody who has some questions, or you're thinking about fostering and not sure if you're if it's a good fit or not. I'll then start talking about bottle feeding. More just talking about it. I know everyone's very excited, but I'm gonna just talk about it a little bit. Talk about our program in general as well when it comes to bottle feeding. We're also gonna have an RVT show up today and answer some general questions. Thank you to everybody who submitted questions in the last couple of days. We're very excited. And we will be watching and monitoring any questions that come along the way. Just for all our fosters who are currently fostering, or for anybody who has their own cats or kittens at home, just bear in mind if you do have anything specific going on, anything medical going on, please make sure to either message the foster team if they are foster cats, or to consult with your own vet if you have any specific questions. Otherwise, we're here to answer any general questions for you, especially about fostering kittens with us. After we talk with our RVT, we're going to go into a demonstration of a bottle kitten. And then from there, if you guys have any other questions. So again, thank you guys so much. I'm just giving everyone a couple minutes to log in to get connected. We are going live on Facebook and Instagram. So if one doesn't work, the other one might work a little bit better. I'm Alexina. I am one of the foster coordinators here at OC Animal Care. I've been part of the program for a while, but I have officially become full-time coordinator in the last couple of months, so I'm very happy and very excited to be here. For those who are questioning whether you want to foster or if bottle feeding is for you, I actually never bottled fed before until about 2 years ago, and here I am now today. So if you're questioning it, always reach out. We're happy to talk to you about it and find a good fit for you. Here, if you haven't already noticed him, I have Fritz. Fritz is a little kitten that came in as a bottle. He was only a couple of days old with his brother, who is taking a nap right now. But Fritz is going to be helping me out today and just kind of letting you guys see how you can go from a bottle kitten to this cutie right here. He's roughly 6 weeks old here at the shelter. We do our best to guess the ages of kittens. So he's super playful. He wants to just run around. I have some toys for him today. I prefer the loud toys, but for the sake of this video, I didn't want to be too distracting. But yeah, so let's see. I want to give everyone just a few more minutes. Here at the shelter, we do have 2 full-time foster coordinators. So myself and Sarah, I'm Alexina again, but myself and Sarah are the foster coordinators, and we're always here to help. We love these little cute guys, super playful. As you can see, Felix just wants to Fritz, this is Fritz. Felix is his brother. They just want to run around and play. Let me see, what are you doing? Where are you trying to go? You want to say hi to everybody? Say hello. So we do have 2 foster coordinators. Like I mentioned, the best way to communicate with us is always going to be our foster email. That's going to be foster@occr.ocgov.com. So if you do have any questions, you're not already a foster, you can message us.
And Alexina, we actually have a question. How old do you have to be to foster a cat?
Yeah, so to be a foster with us, you do have to be 18 years old. So if you really want to help out, we do have quite a few people, our fosters, who they foster with their children. So some students are in high school, if you're 16, 17, and your parents are willing to be the foster caretaker and you would like to help them out, you can always do so, and we're happy to always give credit as well. But you do have to be 18 to sign up. Again, if you're interested, you can always talk to your parents and see if they're comfortable with it. We just need to make sure that there is somebody who is going to be responsible for taking care of either the kitten, the dog, whoever it is that you're fostering. But we can always use the help, and even if you cannot foster, if you guys have checked our resources that we have attached, there are other ways that you can definitely help out, whether it's donating, it's fundraising, You can do things like creating rice socks or blankets. We always need those. They definitely help out little guys like Fritz here. We'll show a little bit more of what those kind of things look like, but you do have to be 18 years old.
And I think we're ready for Foster 101.
All right, so if you guys have the chance, if not, these should be available online afterwards.
There's actually a link in our description as well if you guys want to check it out.
Perfect, yeah, so you guys can check out the link in our description, but we do have the Foster Program 101. The front is gonna look a little like this. Sorry, Fritz. So it's gonna look a little like this if you guys wanna follow along. But I'm just gonna have it here so I can keep going. So for our foster program, the mission of it is to expand our capacity to care for the shelter pets in our community by giving them more options and a chance to thrive. Fritz, you wanna take a break? Fritz is a little excited here, so. All right. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about the foster program in general. As I mentioned, that was our mission. So what that really means is any animals here that are not eligible for adoption at that current time go into our foster program until they are then ready. This can cover anything from being underage, sick, injured. They might even be stressed, so that definitely, this program allows them to prepare until they're ready to find their forever homes. And then we already talked about this, but you do have to be 18 years old to foster. If you are not, you definitely want to talk to somebody in your home who would be willing to be fostered, but you would definitely help them out with it. That is totally okay. We have a number of fosters who have their younger siblings, their children help them out. There are a variety of ways, but the actual foster needs to be 18 years old. You also do need to be active in our foster program. So if you haven't fostered any animals with us in the last year, you would then be considered inactive, but you would still be part of the foster program. That just means we might give you a call and say, hey, you know, is everything okay? Are you still interested in fostering? We understand life happens, people move, sometimes situations change, you might not be able to foster, you might be going to college and you can only foster during the summer. That is totally okay. Just let us know. We definitely want to make sure that we're there for you guys as a support system, but just let us know, you know, if you're getting annoyed by our emails, if you can't foster at that time, but you do need to be active in the sense of responding to our emails, letting us know if you're available or not. And then if you're questioning what it takes to be a foster, there are a few things you need to take into consideration. So for example, if you have your own pets at home, for instance, I have 2 little Chiminis, they're half-wiener dog, half Chihuahua. I would want to keep them separated from my fosters for a minimum of 2 weeks. Regardless if it's a dog, if it's a cat, you want to keep them separated at minimum. I also like to, you know, just suggest and advise our fosters, if you do have very young children, I would kind of keep them at a distance at least for 2 weeks as well. The reasoning behind this is, even though here at the shelter we do our best to screen the kittens for their health when they come in, sometimes there are things that are not going to show up until that two week period. We'll talk a little bit more about it, but they could have panluke, they could have ringworm. You know, sometimes we don't catch those right away. Unfortunately, it can be hard to tell. So we have to look for signs in that 2 week period. So again, you know, keep your pets separated, keep your younger children only because if they don't know how to wash their hands as often, or they're not able to, you know, keep in mind that they have to stay clean between touching the pets, you want to make sure they're going to stay healthy as well. So you want to keep everybody separated. You also want to make sure your pets are up to date on vaccinations. So again, if I take home kittens to my house, I want to make sure that my dogs are up to date on their vaccinations, just so that way they're, you know, prepared and they can fight off anything that might come home. But you want to make sure, especially if you are fostering kittens and you have your own cats at home. It's also a very good idea to keep in mind where you're going to keep these kittens, where you're going to keep your fosters. So we usually like to advise using a bathroom, a spare bathroom. Bathrooms typically are a little easier to clean. You know, you have the tile, you have the bathtub, and it's not too big. You want to make sure that your fosters have enough room where they can, you know, decompress, they can play, they can eat, they can relieve themselves. but you don't want too big of an area where they might get lost, they might get stuck, they might get into things. So a bathroom is a really good place. Some people have spare bedrooms, that's totally a good idea as well. If it's a very large room, things that you can do is always buy a playpen, whether it's one of the foldable ones or if it's like a little baby gate kind of playpen, an X pen, anything like that. You want to just keep them in a contained area. While you do want to give them a place to play, you don't want to give them too much free range of the home. They can get easily stuck behind things. As you saw, Fritz was already on this table trying to run around everywhere, knock things down. So you want to make sure you have an area that they are going to be able to play, relieve, eat, but nothing too huge. You also want it to be fairly easy to clean as the kittens start getting older, or if you take a dog home, if you take a cat home. You don't want to give them free range of the house and then, wake up one morning and it's a little stinky somewhere, and then you come to find out that they probably relieved themselves where they shouldn't have. So you want to make sure that anywhere you keep them is fairly easy to clean. If you are going to keep them in a carpeted area, just keep in mind you might have to have the cleaning supplies ready. One way you can also avoid a very big mess, if you are using a playpen of some sort, you can buy pee pads to put on the bottom. Just toss them. You can wash any blankets that get dirty. You can also buy a very cheap shower curtain and lay those on the floor. That way you don't if you want it done away, you can. Or if you prefer, you can just rinse them off out in the back, rinse them off somewhere, and then you can reuse it again. So those are just a few things to kind of keep in mind as you're where you're going to keep your foster animals. And then foster animals are curious. So just like little babies, new kids in the home, you want to make sure this home is going to be foster proof. So hiding all breakable objects, blocking electrical outlets, removing toxic plants, small items that they may be able to eat or get to. You want to remove all of that. Again, keeping in mind, if you're going to be keeping them in your bedroom, are they going to be able to hide behind your dresser in there? If they go under your bed, are they going to be down there and you can't get them? So keeping those things in mind. There is a lot to take into consideration. The other thing you would want to take into consideration if you're going to foster here at OC Animal Care or anywhere in general is what we do offer and as part of our program. So here, we do have medical care. So what this means is we will take care of vaccinations, we'll take care of flea treatment every month, and then any other general medical concerns that might happen, such as diarrhea, we can help out with that. That is to an extent, however. So not to go too much into that, but we do cover as much as we can. If it does become something that we are unable to take care of here at the shelter, myself and Sarah are going to do our best to just be honest with you and let you know, hey, this is what your foster animal needs, and we're going to help you from there to figure out a game plan. While the foster pets are going to be the shelter still, we still want you to feel in the loop, but just keep in mind at the end of the day, we are going to do what is best for each of the animals. But other than that, we will help you with the medical care here. That also includes spays and neuters. So here, once the animals are ready for their spay or neuter, we'll take care of that as well. And then our program, unfortunately, does not have a budget for supplies. However, we do have a really, really great community that is constantly donating. These donations help so much. So that is what keeps our program running. We try our best to make sure that we have enough supplies to share with everybody as well, whether it's going to be blankets, food, it can be anything like the milk replacement, and we'll show a little bit of that a little later. But donated supplies is always going to be really important. So if you're not 18 and you cannot foster, or maybe you're allergic to animals and you can't foster, donating supplies is always going to help them so much. It helps not only the animals, it helps the shelter, and it helps our foster caretakers as well. You can see a picture if you're following along with our resources, a picture of KMR Breeder's Edge and one of our kittens who is saying thank you guys so much for donating. Another great part of our program specifically is the support of fosters. So we have a lot of longtime fosters, whether they've been fostering with us or somewhere else where they used to live. They're very experienced and they love to share their experiences with all of you new fosters as well. Part of that and how they do that is our foster Facebook group. So this page is set up and designed so fosters can share photos, share videos if they're looking for adopters for their foster animals, and then just any questions in general. Sometimes we have fosters who are asking. Recently, we had somebody ask about a baby gate, where they can purchase one, or what best to use. So our foster Facebook group is there to support all of our fosters. We do have staff who are also on there who can monitor and answer any other questions, but our fosters are always there to support each other just as much as we are. I always like to say staff are here to support you guys as you support us, as we all support the animals that come into the foster program and the shelter. And then if your next questions are, well, what gets fostered? So we have anything from orphan kittens and puppies. This means that they came in without a mom, unfortunately. Sometimes we know what happened to mom, sometimes we don't, but we just know at the end of the day they are orphaned and they do need someone to care for them. We also get moms and babies though. So that can be dogs, that can be cats. We get a mix of those as well. We also have medical pets. So these pets are pets that have gone through our medical program, and they really just need some help to recover after surgery or prepare for surgery, and then they would stay with the foster until they are fully cleared and ready to be adopted. And then we also have dogs and cats who are a little scared, who are a little stressed. They just might need some time to decompress from the shelter area, or they might just need a home where they can learn that they can trust people. They don't need to be afraid. Unfortunately, we don't always know the stories behind every baby that comes in. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, but we really appreciate our fosters who are open and willing to taking these animals home and really showing them that they don't need to be afraid. So every foster, it really depends. Every situation is different. Every scenario can be different too. It really just depends. Here in our foster program, I can give you guidelines, but as time is going, we're going to be honest and open with you about what realistically, what you're taking home to foster, how long, and we're going to do our best to let you guys know. The best way, as I mentioned earlier, the foster email is always going to be the best form of communication. Whether myself or Sarah are in the office, or even if we both are, we do have staff who are constantly monitoring that email for emergencies and any time-sensitive emails as well. So again, foster@occr.ocgov.com. That goes to a number of people who have access to that email, and we're constantly watching. There are, if you have already looked up our foster manual is online under Get Involved and Foster. You can also email us if you have it, or when you become a foster, once you get that email saying welcome to the program, you'll get the manual as well. But that manual does have a lot of great numbers and contact information on page 3. It will have myself, Sarah, Jessica, our manager. For dog fosters, it does have Erica, our interim behavior and enrichment manager, and then just the general shelter numbers, excuse me. And we also do have our after-hours emergency number as well. So if you are a foster, please make sure that all those numbers, all those emails are saved in your phone so you know when we're calling you. But it is always going to be very important that you email the foster email. Part of the reason why you want to have the foster email and everybody's contact information is if you do have sick animals. So if you ever see signs of your animals getting sick, some very common ones are going to be they're not eating as much, they're going to be a little lethargic, maybe vomiting. You want to let us know. Just like kids though, if you guys have kids or have helped raise kids, you're going to know when your foster animals are feeling a little sick. Just email foster staff or the foster email so that way we can get back to you and let you know what the next steps are. We want to be here to support you guys again while you're supporting us.
And Alexina, what was that foster email one more time?
Yeah, so it's foster@occr.ocgov.com. Alright, and then I know we might have some questions, but I just want to answer some common questions we get. How long does it take to foster? Well, it depends. So if you take kittens, we do have kittens here who In our program, they only need to be fostered until they're 2 months old and about 2 pounds. At that point, they are ready, old enough and big enough for adoption, as well to be spayed and neutered. So again, for kittens, it's usually going to be about 2 months. If you take bottle kittens, you're looking at that large 2-month frame. If you take kittens who are only 6-7 weeks old, you're only looking at about 2 weeks, if that. They just need some time to gain weight. So it's going to depend on who you're taking. It also will depend on if they have any medical concerns. So you might take some kittens, have them, they're coming back 2 months, and right before they're about to stay, they might start feeling a little sick to their tummies and have some diarrhea. We might have to take them back just for another week until they get clear of that diarrhea. So every scenario is going to be different. Since we're talking a little general about our program, as well as dogs, if you take the dog, we might let you know, give him 3-4 weeks, see how scared he is. He might be ready to come back even before then. He might need a little extra time, so it depends. But we're going to let you know right off the bat what we're kind of thinking of fostered frame-wise. What kind of animals can I take home? We already talked a little bit about it, but you can take home orphan puppies or kittens, moms and babies, anybody who's scared. Right now, our program focuses mostly on cats, kittens, and some dogs. We also do have bunnies who go to foster as well. So it really depends on who is in need of foster at the time. And then what if I want to keep my foster? So that is totally okay. I know the word fail usually scares people, but in this case, you would become what we call a foster fail. And that's totally okay. That just means that you have fostered and then you decided to keep them. I know right now in the animal world, we're kind of thinking of some other names other than foster fail, but right now that's what we are using. A lot of staff actually have become foster fails. A lot of new fosters. It's very typical, but that is totally okay. We will let you know what the next steps are. Right now, we don't have any adoption fees or discounts for fosters, but we definitely want to make sure that you guys have first say. Or say you are fostering and you don't want to keep a cat right now. Maybe you already have 3 and can't. Maybe you have 3 dogs already and you can't keep the one you're fostering. If your sister, if your brothers, your mom wants one, you still have first say if you want them to adopt or not. You just let staff know and we kind of go from there and tell you what the next steps are. Alright, so that is our foster program in a nutshell. There are a little more things, but if you look at our foster manual, you can definitely see. And is there any questions that we have right now? Anybody had any?
Cosmic Adrian on Instagram asked, he says he has an older dog. Would you recommend fostering a cat?
So the question was, just in case, if you already have an older dog at home and you're wondering if you can foster a cat, it really is going to depend on the temperament of your dog. However, we are still going to strongly advise that you keep them separated. Here at the shelter, we are unable to temperament test dogs and cats together. So you're going to be the best judge of your dog's own temperament, but we will still strongly advise you keeping them separated. We do have some, it's kind of a guidelines of how you could introduce them, but it is a very slow introduction. This is for the safety of your dog. This is also for the safety of the cat. And just so that way we're setting you up for success. So again, we have some guidelines, but it is a very slow introduction. If you have a pretty big home where, you're gonna keep your cat in the room and your dog separated, maybe your dog lives outside and never comes in, that is a little more reasonable, but we definitely would suggest you need to make sure that you can contain your dog and the cat separated, and then kind of go from there as far as introductions. Part of that would include having a crate, whether you're going to have your dog in the crate and the cat loose, or the cat in the crate, your dog loose. But that is something, as you're considering fostering, you can reach out to us and we can talk a little bit more about, ask you some questions about your dog, about your home, and we can see if we can find you a really good fit. Did we have any other questions I can answer? All right, so now that we talked a little bit about our foster program in general, we're going to go ahead and talk about our bottle feeding. I know everyone's very excited about that. And we will have a kitten a little later to demonstrate bottle feeding. That way you guys can see up hand. or up close, not up hand, up close how to bottle feed. But bear with me as I get this ready. So, you want to foster bottle feeding kittens. That's really great news because that is what everywhere is always going to need. Whether it's here at this shelter, another shelter you're thinking about, bottle feeding is very important and it's a really great skill to have, and it can save so many lives. So all the pictures of kittens in this, as you're following along in the resources, these are all kittens that have actually been through our foster program. So some things you want to think about, as we mentioned, is time. How long are you able to foster? So we do have a new program I'll talk a little bit about, but if you can foster long term for that about 2 months period, that is great news. If you can only foster maybe on the weekends or maybe certain nights, that's totally okay because we have what we call our Guardian program. So the Guardian program is fosters who are able to bottle feed, and you guys are essentially on call whenever staff needs. So sometimes staff is off at 6 o'clock and bottle kittens come in at 5:30, 5:45 even. Sometimes they come in 5 minutes before we're supposed to leave. So what we do is we call our Guardian fosters. These are fosters who live relatively close, they know how to bottle feed, and they're able to take the kittens overnight or maybe for 2-3 nights at a time. This helps staff because now we can recharge and then come back the next day and find permanent placement. If it's a holiday, this gives us time so that when we come back and we're in the office, we can find a permanent foster. So we have a Guardian program that you could always think about possibly doing, as well as just becoming a permanent foster. This means you're going to foster as long as you can. With that being said, though, again, we also understand things happen. Life events happen and come up that you really have no control over. If that were to happen and you need to bring the foster kittens back, that is totally okay. We're never going to tell you, nope, sorry, you're on your own. We're going to tell you, all right, just let us know what time you're coming in. We might ask you how the kittens are eating, how often, how well of eaters, if there's anything specific about the kittens to know, and then we're going to tell the next foster. We do try to not have our foster kittens hopping from foster to foster. That is also not good for them, but we are going to make sure that they do find placement and that they are taken care of. You also want to think about how often are you going to be able to bottle feed. So I know a lot of people are always very excited to bottle feed and to take care of little tiny kittens. But with that being said, you need to keep in mind some kittens have to be fed every 2 hours, some of them even every hour. It really depends on what the kitten's needs are. So if you are wanting to bottle feed, ask yourself how often are you willing to feed. If you're doing a Guardian, maybe you're more willing to feed every hour. If you are going to be a permanent foster, maybe you're only willing to feed every 4 hours. These are things that you want to take into consideration. As we kind of go a little bit more, I'll talk a little bit more about what all that looks like and how you'll know who you can and cannot foster. But kind of just follow along. Keep that in mind of how often can I bottle feed. You also want to think about where you're going to keep them. So little fosters that are only a few days old, a few weeks old, you can keep them in the box, in the carrier, as long as you have them somewhere contained. My dogs, if I take home kittens, they're always going to try to go to the box. I have to make sure that they're high enough where my dogs can't jump or my dogs can't reach. As they get older, like Fritz, who we saw a little bit earlier, the little kitten that was walking around, he can't stay in a box. He's probably going to need that playpen set up. So you want to make sure that you have that bathroom ready as they get older. So again, just kind of keeping in mind, sometimes you might take a litter of 2, they can stay in the box. But sometimes you might take a litter of 8, which we had. If you guys watched some of the videos leading up to today, we did have a litter of 8 orange kittens that came in. So you want to keep in mind how many kittens can you take, where are you going to keep them. You want to make sure it's nowhere that's too cold. Kittens cannot regulate their own temperature. You want to make sure, again, nowhere where they're going to be able to hide or get crushed or get squeezed in between where you cannot reach them. So kind of keeping in mind, where would I keep my fosters? And then again, your own pets at home. If you have a dog who is really prey driven, it may not be the best idea to be bringing home foster kittens. He's going to see him as prey, and he's just going to follow his natural instinct of going after them. Or you might have your own cat at home. My dog, if she was a cat, she definitely would not appreciate me bringing home any kittens. She wants to be the only one in my life. She wasn't happy about her sister coming home either, but she had to suck it up. But keeping in mind, how are your own pets going to react and how are they going to feel about you bringing home some foster kittens? And then there is, and I am not trying to scare any of you away, but I'm going to get very serious for a second. There is what is called failure to thrive. So again, I do not want to scare any of you away, but it is very important that you all understand some kittens just are not going to make it, unfortunately. You can do everything right, you can follow every single guideline, you can do everything great, every feeding, and it just may not make it. This is nothing on you, you did nothing wrong, it is just that they are not going to make it. It is called fading kitten syndrome, and then sometimes there are other reasons. Again, I do not want to scare any of you, but I do need you all to understand that this is a really hard part about fostering. Whether you have kittens who are 2-3 days old, maybe a few weeks, even a few months, sometimes they end up not making it, whether it's congenital or they just didn't grow up correctly. I'm blanking on the word, but they just didn't develop. That's what I'm trying to say. They didn't develop correctly. So it is something very scary. It is very hard. My experience here at the shelter, I saw a lot of foster kittens, and then when I took home my own first batch and they passed on me, it was very hard, but I had seen it enough where I knew I couldn't blame myself. It is something pretty consistent. You see a lot more bottle kittens. So that is one of the hardest part about bottle feeding. But at the same time, those kittens who do make it, those kittens who grow up to be like Fritz and his brother, it makes it all worth it. It makes it worth it to see them go from these itty bitty things that are in your hand to these big 2-pound kittens that are going to turn into cats. They get adopted and they're living their best life. So that is just something you want to take into consideration. We do our best to prepare everyone and to let you guys know what how realistic it is that your kittens will make it. But it is something you always want to take into consideration and know sometimes they just won't. But at the end of the day, you provided them a loving home. You provided them a great few weeks, few months, few days, whatever it is. You helped them get through it, and they know you were there, and they know you love them. So just keep that in mind. It can be hard, but we are here to support you. And at the end of the day, you're giving them a wonderful life. Whether it's 3 days, 3 weeks, you gave them an amazing life. So enough of the serious talk, I promise. We might do a little bit more serious talk, but we'll get there when we get there. For the most part, though, that is one of the big things you want to take into consideration. So how to prepare for foster kittens, especially bottle kittens. Again, if you look at our foster manual, that is a very general list of things that you would want to keep. But for foster kittens in specific, some things you might want to get in advance might be a carrier. Here at the shelter, we'll send you home with a little box carrier, but if you want your own, you're definitely welcome to get them. We do prefer here at the shelter the ones that have the top that opens. If they open on the front, that's totally okay. If they zip up, that's great. But if you have one that has a top opening, it makes it a little bit easier, especially for moms and babies or maybe a medical pet. It's easier to put them inside and put them out rather than trying to pull them in and out from the front of the carrier. So that is something you want to take into consideration. You also want to think about if you have a carrier that has a lot of little holes and you're taking home tiny itty bitty bottle kittens, are they going to get stuck in those holes? Are you going to cover them up with a blanket? As they get bigger, obviously it'll be less likely that they're getting stuck in the holes, but that's something you wanted to take into consideration. You also want fleece blankets. We have some that we can show. Any kind of blanket, as long as it's super warm. You don't want holes, you don't want loose threads because it can get caught in that. But fleece blankets like these, you can buy really cheap ones at Ross if they're open. I think they're open. So you can buy really cheap baby blankets. They're super warm. They're super soft. These guys are really soft. I could probably use them to take a nap if I wanted to today. But anything really warm for them. Bottle kittens cannot regulate their own temperature, so you would also want what we call heat sources. So we have a few here. So this is the most basic one. If you are younger than 18 or you cannot foster, this is a really great project you can work on with your friends. You can just get some socks, you know, all those mix-max socks you can't find anymore, or you only have that one pair. You can use them to make rice socks. So this one was just sewn closed. All the rice is inside. You can also just tie a knot at the top, and you can also just make a pouch where you sew that pouch closed and put a cover, kind of like a blanket, because in that way the outside can be washed. The only fault, these are really great because simple to make. You know, you can make them whenever you need. Pretty easy to make as well, and then you throw them in the microwave and heat it up. On the plus side, they smell really good because it smells like rice, so I always like using these. But the faulty part of these are they don't always hold the temperature as long as other sources. Once they get dirty, it's going to be a little hard to wash. And between litters, you wouldn't want to mix them. So if you take home 4 kittens, you know, and then they grow up, they don't need this anymore, you wouldn't really want to use this for the next batch of kittens, because you don't know what the first ones might have had that can pass to the next. So these are really great, but only for more temporary use. You have some heating discs that are these gel. So this is a cupboard, and if you take it out, it's just this blue gel here. Super soft, and it can, you know, it's very flexible and flimsy. These are really great because you warm these up, and these will hold the heat a lot longer. I like these because it molds with the kittens. They can go on top of them. They can, you know, they can get off of them if they want. It's a lot more flexible. And then you also have these heating sources where these are harder. It's just a disc, kind of like those the water heaters you would put under your bed. These hold the heat a lot better. They'll hold them more. They're just a little harder. You can't really bend them or anything. And they say how often to heat up as well, which is really nice. So these two are really great. They just are a little more expensive. But if you are fostering a lot of bottle kittens, I would definitely suggest investing in one of these. As you can see, you can take the cover off. It's really easy to clean. And they're just really great. So we definitely like these a lot. But the rice socks, we typically will send these out. Again, all of our supplies is donation based. So we'll send a lot more rice socks out. You also want KMR or any type of kitten replacement or kitten milk replacer. So this is a medium size of KMR. It has this little white Siamese cat with blue eyes. It says KMR right here, and the instructions are on it. You can get some that are smaller, so like yay high. You can get cats that are a lot bigger, but you can also get different brands. So we have KMR, we have GNC. We have it's white and pink, it just says milk replacement, and then Breeder's Edge. Here at the shelter, again, we just use whatever is donated to us, but KMR and Breeder's Edge are really great. Breeder's Edge we definitely like to use for the kittens who are under 2 weeks old. It is just, it gives them a better chance and it's a lot better for them. But KMR also does just fine, so do any of the other milk replacers. But these two we do use a lot more. You also want to keep in mind having some bottles ready. So here's a bottle kit. In the bottle kit, you'll have the bottle. You'll have 3 nipples that look the same. You'll have a long one and this really skinny long one. These 2 right here are not for bottle kittens. If you use this long one, it makes it more. You might be able to aspirate, or you're probably going to aspirate if you use this one. I'll talk a little bit about aspiration in a little bit, but these 2 are not for bottle kittens. These other 3 are, and with these 3, you're also going to cut your own hole. It also comes with a little brush, and then what we definitely advise is a miracle nipple. It can come with a syringe or just one. They are a little more expensive, but these nipples are designed to be more like mom, and they are pre-cut. We like using these for kittens under 2 weeks old, just because it's a lot more helpful. And then other things that you're going to want to keep in mind are just going to be extra syringes, some tissue paper, a shallow litter pan for when your kittens are ready. We definitely recommend non-clumping litter, so litter pan like this one here. When you buy the canned food, sometimes they have that little cardboard and it's a little shorter. You can turn that into a litter pan. Small toys, you want wet food and dry food ready for when their kittens are old enough. Here we use Royal Canine Kitten. So we also use mother and baby cats, so you can buy stuff like this. A scale and a notebook to track. If you're going through your resources that we listed also on the last page, I believe, or on the second page, you'll find this bottle feeding tracker. So this is so that way you can keep an eye on your kittens, how much they're gaining, how much they're eating. Alright. And then what we provide here at the shelter. So I'm gonna pass this back. So here at the shelter, we're gonna send you off with the cardboard carrier. We're gonna send you a heating source, so most likely that rice stalk. It's KMR as long as we have some, and right now we do have a decent amount to at least get you started when we first send you. We'll send you a bottle, some blankets, some tissues. So anything that we have, we're gonna send to you. Send with you, I should say. The next slide just talks about Kitten Lady. So 2 really great resources that you're gonna want as your bottle or fostering bottle kittens are gonna be checking out the Kitten Lady and the National Kitten Coalition. Those 2 sources are really amazing. They have ways that you can see how old your kitten is, to track the growth, where they should be at, and really just understanding and seeing where your kittens are developmentally. So if you follow along, the next slides have some charts to see how often your kittens should be eating, about how old they should be, when they're eating so much. And then if you go on to kitten care, we mentioned stimulating. So what happens when you take bottle kittens is you need to know how to stimulate. You need to know how to bottle feed. You need to keep their faces clean and make sure they don't have fleas. And then monitor, log, and repeat. And that's that log I showed you. You want to monitor how much they're eating, how often, and keep track of that as they're growing. That's really going to show if they're not developing correctly or if they have any issues. So stimulating, and all of this again, folks, we're going to show you in a demonstration. So I'm going to kind of just talk through this really quick and we'll talk more about it. But stimulating, you're just going to go in circular motions. You don't want to be rubbing the kitten because that can make them raw. You just want to stimulate them a little bit so that they can go to the bathroom. Kittens under 3 weeks and under cannot go on their own, so you're going to have to help them. If your kittens do have diarrhea, it could be a number of things, so reach out to us. But sometimes it could be diet change, sometimes it could be the dewormer that we give, but you're going to want to let us know. And then feeding. You're always going to want to watch the kitten's tummies, and I'll explain that in a little bit. You want to keep an eye on the nipple flow. As you're mixing the KMR or Breeder's Edge, whatever you're using, sometimes you might get clumps, so you want to make sure there's no clumps. And then never use dairy products. I myself am lactose intolerant, so I can't handle it. Kittens can't either, so you have to make sure you're using kitten milk. Kitten replace your milk when you're feeding them. And then vet care. So what we do here, as I talked about earlier in our Foster 101, is we take care of medication, we take care of boosters to an extent, but we will be doing every 2 to 3 weeks visits so we can see your kittens. And then that's it for our bottle feeding 101. So really quick, we're just going to show you guys how all the gifts that people have donated. I know we've been showing everybody our donation list, but here is everything that has been donated, just the number of items. So items from, I'm going to stand up so you can still see me. Items from the milk replacer. As I mentioned, there's different sizes of the milk replacer. You can also get cans. Cans are really great for overnight or guardian use, or you're on the go. Sometimes you might want to dilute these a little bit. They might be a little too rich, but these are also really great when you're transitioning your kittens. We got wet food. All of it is kitten. We have collars. Those orange kittens at APAC, they all look very similar. So having different color collars is always going to help out. Bottle kittens. You also do need, if it's a singleton, these little purr monsters right here are really helpful. And then, let me see. What else do we got? Miracle nipples, as I talked about. the wet food when they start to get older, and then the dry food as well. So this is just some of the stuff that we've gotten from donations. So thank you guys all so much. We really appreciate it. I can't tell you enough how much these donations mean to us and our fosters and the kittens, and we can always use more. So this is just an example, but thank you guys, everybody who's donated so much. We really appreciate you guys, as well as everyone who's made us rice socks in the past couple of weeks. All right, so I'm just gonna push it out of the way really fast. And now what everyone's been waiting for, we're gonna go ahead and do a up close one-on-one bottle feeding. All right, folks, so I'm just gonna pull my chair up close and get set up. So if you wanna start refilling the bottle, right? Awesome. So I always like to make sure when I bottle feed that I have something underneath, whether it's a potty pad, if it's a blanket that you don't want gets dirty. It's something always that you're gonna be okay making a mess with. I'm gonna have some tissues ready because I'm gonna stimulate the kitten. And some baby wipes in case I get messy. And then I will need a trash can. Just because sometimes they keep going on and you need to make sure you're ready for that. Alright, so I'm gonna use a litter box. As you're taking care of bottle kittens, if you do stimulate them over a litter box, that usually helps them to learn to use it. And then this is a scale. I just want to show it to you guys really quick. This is a small kitchen scale, a gram scale. This is really great if you're taking care of bottle kittens because these are relatively cheap and you can track their weights really well with this. All right.
And Alexina, I'm so sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
We actually have a great question. Someone wanted to know how long those rice socks actually stay warm for and how often should they reheat them?
It really depends on your microwave. So here our microwave is a little older, so sometimes I have to stick it in a little longer. As long as the sock itself is warm, that's what you're looking for. So if the sock, if you touch it and it burns you, what I would suggest is get a small towel or blanket, wrap that around the sock, and then you can put that with the kittens because if they need to, they can crawl away from the rice sock and get away from the heat, but once they start to get cold, they can go back to them. With those kind of rice socks, I would definitely recommend checking them at least every hour. If you're using really warm blankets, when you're keeping them in a pretty relatively warm area, as long as they're warm, that's what you're looking for. So you wouldn't need to check that rice sock as often, but you want to make sure they have enough blankets to keep warm to crawl under if they need to or not. So we already have a pre-made bottle. As you can see, this is the Miracle Nipple we were talking about, and this is the bottle that came from the bottle kit. We just put the Miracle Nipple onto this bottle, and then it was already pre-made. Again, the milk replacers will say how you want to go ahead and create make the mixture. But before I feed this kitten, I'm also going to check how warm it is, and how I like to do it is I test it on my wrist. So by touching my skin, it's already warm. If the milk is cold or if the kitten is cold itself, you don't want to feed it. Never feed a bottle kitten when it's cold. It is more important that the kitten gets warmed up first than it eats. The reasoning behind this is if the kitten's cold, if the milk's cold, it can rot in their stomach and that can cause a lot of issues and be very fatal to the kitten. So this milk, as it's touching my wrist, it's already warm. I can feel it. It's not toasty and burning me, but it is nice and warm. Bottle kittens can retain a lot of temperature from mom, but you don't want it to be like searing your skin. That can burn them as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the kitten. So this is Storm. This little guy came in about a week and a half ago, and he's super cute. He came as a singleton, so that little doll that I showed you guys would be really great for him because he can have a little friend in there. So he's super cute. He's a pretty good eater as well. So what I'm first gonna do, say hi everybody. My name is Storm. I don't know if you guys can hear the little meows, but he's super cute. So I'm going to go ahead and stimulate him. You want to stimulate their private parts. Oh, he's already peeing. So I'm just going to go from here. So I'm just doing gentle little circles. And as you can see, he's not very squirmy, but sometimes you're going to get kittens who are. as you are stimulating him, so he's got some poop coming out, as you can see right there. If you're going to be fostering, you're going to have to get used to poop, lots and lots of it. So he's doing a really good poop right now. It is coming out yellow brownish. That is a very good color. If your kittens start to have different color poop, it could be a number of things. So you definitely want to reach out to your foster coordinators, whether it's myself and Sarah, or if you're going somewhere else. So he's still going. And I will show you guys again. If you don't like to see poop or pee, maybe just keep listening to me, don't look at it, but that is something you're going to want to have to be able to do as you're fostering, especially bottle kittens. Poop is always going to be very important and be a telltale of what's going on with your kitten. So he's going to get a bath after this anyway, so if he gets a little dirty, that's okay. I don't know if you guys saw that, but he's just going now. So I like to stimulate before and after feeding because the way I see it is you're kind of emptying your bladder to make a little bit more room. So he's just going and going. So I'm just going to keep stimulating him until he's done. And I'll show you guys, he's got a really good poop coming out.
Alexina, is it normal for the kittens to make noises?
Yes, it is. So might sound a little gross to hear, but you know, if you've ever had a time in your life where you have to go to the restroom and you just feel good relieving yourself, that's pretty much what they're doing. Kittens cannot relieve themselves on their own at this age. They're not going to be able to start doing so until roughly 3 weeks old. Typically what would happen if he had a mom right now, mom would lick him and pretty much eat everything that's coming out. So as you're fostering bottle kittens who don't have moms, this is really, you're going to pretty much be mom. So you want to just stimulate as much. So if you look, he's been going potty and poop, but we want to make sure we get everything out of his system. I'm going to use a baby wipe really quick just to kind of clean up his little behind. But he's not really going poop anymore. He's not really going pee. Some kittens are going to be extremely squirmy. He's not, which is really nice. But if your kittens are really squirmy and they're fidgety, just know they are trying to go. They just don't realize that you're trying to help them yet. Or you could be rubbing too rough and they're uncomfortable. So you want to make sure you're just doing gentle little rubs. Make sure you're also stimulating their behind area and their little parts. You don't want to be stimulating the stomach or anything. You want to stimulate where their butt is and where they are going to relieve themselves. So I'm just going to have this go off to the side really quick. So now that he is potty, he's going to be nice and hungry. So never feed the kittens on their backs. I know that's how you would with a human baby, but you don't want to do that with bottle kittens. And they can see the kitten okay? Yeah. All right, perfect. So there's a few things you can do. You can either grab his head like a C, like this, or you can put your finger, ooh, don't grab that. You would want to have a finger on his throat, not pushing down, but that way you can see if he's actually drinking. I prefer the C method. So I cup his head and I put the bottle at an angle. And then he's trying to figure it out. So right now he's just lapping it up. So he may not be very hungry right now. But as you're feeding, you don't ever want to put pressure. You want to hold it, and if you do put pressure, you only put pressure so it's coming out one drop at a time. So if you have fidgety eaters, this is going to be where you're going to have to be extremely patient because you're only going to do a drop at a time. And as they're kind of wiggling their head away, you're still going to do a drop at a time. This will help from preventing aspiration. Aspiration pretty much means that how when you eat, if your drink goes down the wrong hole or if your food goes down the wrong hole, for kittens, aspiration means that the milk is going into their lungs, and that can be very fatal. So you want to make sure you're not doing that. So he's a little fidgety. Hi, baby. So let me see. You can put them on your chest if you'd like, But you again make sure that their tummies are down, and I'm gonna get a little more comfortable. All right. Excuse me. Storm. So again, put it at an angle. I like to sit when I'm feeding because I have better view of what's going on with them. So he's being a little fussy. You not hungry? But you want to hold the bottle up. Oh, there. Oh, he almost had it. You know when your kittens are good latchers, when their tongue, it's really hard to show here on the clip, but in person you'll see their tongues kind of wrap under it like a burrito. See, and he's pushing away, so sometimes your kittens will do that. Don't be afraid. That just means they may not be very hungry or they haven't figured out how to latch yet. And in between feeding, I like to clean their mouths. Always, always, always make sure they keep them clean. If you don't, they can have some skin issues and their fur can fall off and it won't grow up back when they get nice and big. So you want to make sure that you're keeping them clean. Oh, so he latched for a second. You know your kittens also latch well when their ears wiggle. The first time I fed a kitten and his ear, it was a he. Yeah, it was a he, and it was also a black kitten. His ears wiggled, and it was the cutest thing in the world, and I was so happy. There you go. So he's latching for a few seconds, and then he'll stop. Bottle feeding, you have to have patience for. You cannot rush it, because that is when you're going to be more likely to aspirate your kitten and cause some issues. So you want to make sure you're going to be patient. So for instance, if you're ready to bottle feed and you see that there's a litter of 8, but you're like, oh man, I have a busy day and work schedule, maybe the litter of 8 is not the best, but maybe 1 or 2 would be good because you can take the time to feed them. So you want to make sure you're being honest with yourself when you're bottle feeding. How realistic is it going to be? Are you going to wake up every 2 hours in the middle of the night? Are you going to be able to stay up for half an hour to feed them if you need to, if they're not good eaters? So right now he's just kind of lapping it up. And really quick, I should have showed, but right here on the bottle you can kind of see the measurements. And before you feed them, you want to make sure you check to see where you're starting. Are you done? So he's getting a little sleepy, but I'm going to clean his mouth. And now if you look at his tummy, I don't know how close I can get. Let me shield your eyes. You look at his tummy, he's got a little pear shape going on. It's nice and thick. That means he's pretty full. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stimulate him one more time to see if he's going to eat a little better. So he's going to keep saying, I'm ready for sleep. I know. Yeah. I like to talk to my kittens too when I feed them. I think they're having conversation with me. Probably not. Maybe telling me about their dreams or what happened before they got here. But he's a very good kitten. Although he didn't latch and eat really well, he was still he was a relatively good eater still. He does have a foster mommy already who let us borrow him for the day, so he might have already ate before he got here. But he's going to be eating, I believe when I spoke to him, oh, he's pooping a little bit more, so, oh yeah, he's pooping. So I'm going to just let him poop because maybe he'll eat a little bit more. Me personally, when I take home bottle kittens, the last feeding, I will try to feed a little extra. Even if they're not latching, I still give them, I do the whole drop at a time because I want them to have full bellies. Because if for whatever reason I sleep in or, I miss a little bit of, or maybe I wake up like half an hour late, they'll have enough food. So I'm going to just get a tissue now, wipe off his little butt. No. Alright, so I'm going to try one more time with him. I personally like to stimulate before and after just because then I know he's extra stimulated. And if he is hungry. So I think he's all set. He said nope. Alright, and I'm just gonna clean up one more time. You can also clean their eyes if you ever notice they're a little dirty. And you can do like a warm compress. Or, by that I mean get like a washcloth and just use warm water. He's super cute. And then did we lose Instagram for a little bit?
We lost Facebook, but we're working on getting it back up. The great
All right.
news is we will be posting this video for you guys to watch later on today. So
what you would want to do with this is give a little bit to them before feeding, maybe like half an hour or so. It kind of just gives them a little bit more of a boost. As your kittens get older, you're going to want to give, if they do need help gaining some weight, you can give them what's called NutriCal. This again should not be used in place of a meal. It should just be supplemental. This is just a little gel that you would give to them and it will help them gain a little bit more weight. And then Dawn dish soap. So Storm, for example, is too little to be getting flea treatment, but Fritz from earlier today is not. He can. But regardless if they can or cannot get flea treatment, Dawn dish soap is really, really great. So there is included in the resources on how to give a kitten a bath, especially if they have fleas. But this is really great to have too. But for now, I'm going to step away for a second and I'm going to welcome our RVT, Jamie. She's going to answer some questions that were sent in. Again, if you guys have questions you guys would like us to answer, just make sure they are not specific to your pets. If it is something that you really need medical attention, please reach out to us or to your own veterinarian if it is not a foster pet. But right now, we're going to have Jamie answer some questions about fostering in general. All right.
Hi Jamie, welcome so much. Thank you for joining us. So Jamie has been an RVT with us for a long, long time, and we're so excited to have you here today. I do have 3 questions for you, so I'll go ahead and start with number 1.
Okay.
One of the most asked questions was, how do I know when it's actually time to transition my kittens to wet food?
Okay, so typically you would want to start weaning your kittens off of formula or off of mom if you've got a mom is around 5 weeks of age. A lot of the times the kittens will kind of tell you when they're ready to get off the bottle. They'll start chewing on the nipple a little bit. You'll just, I don't know, you'll just know when it's time. Usually at that point is when we graduate them to gruelies, which means that you're going to take your formula, whether you're using the KMR or whatever, and you're going to mix it with some canned food. The mother baby cat that Alexina was showing earlier works really good to mix with the formula. Iams kitten food in the purple can works really good too. You want to find something that mushes up fairly easily so it can make like kind of like a super thick gravy type thing that they can lap up simply. And then from there, what you're going to do is you're just going to start to reduce the amount of formula that you put in the wet food and just feed wet food and leave solid food out for them along with some water.
Awesome, thank you so much. So the next most question that we got was, how often should my kittens pee and poop? Especially the little teeny tinies.
The little itty bitties, you should stimulate them, like Alexina said, before and after every feeding, which would be usually between 2 to 3 hours, depending on how your kitten wants to eat. Just like human babies, they kind of tell you what their schedule's going to be. Poop, they should at least poop once a day. If they go several days without pooping, it can be a couple of things, but most of the time it's going to be constipation because they're either A, transitioning from a different type of formula, or they were on mom and now they're on formula. So their little bodies don't always adjust very well to it. So one of my recommendations is to try diluting the formula down, which I usually recommend doing an 8 parts water to 1 part formula for 4 feedings. Then you're gonna do 4 parts water to 1 part formula for 4 feedings. And then you're gonna go back to the recommended 2 parts water to 1 part formula. Usually you can get them to go poop within the next 24 hours. If not, my recommendation would be to contact the foster email and see if you can get them in, because they might need some sub-Q fluids to help them along. Also, warm water stimulation, when you can hold their little booties underneath some warm water, and you're just gonna kind of massage their lower abdomen and their genital area, and that can sometimes help kickstart them to go potty.
Awesome, thank you so much. So this one is actually a great question because it's involving fleas. You know, they can be a little bit pesky. So someone asked, what can I do about fleas since my babies are too little for topical flea treatment?
Okay, so like Alexina was saying earlier, we usually use Dawn dish soap. It's relatively safe, especially for the little ones. You can make like a dilute bath water for it. I'll usually just put like a little bit in my hand and get like a nice good lather going up and lather them up. And you do want to try and get so if they're really, really bad and you do their body and you don't get their head, all the fleas are going to fly to their face. So you do want to get their face just a little bit. Like, I obviously don't want to make sure you avoid the eyes, nose, mouth, and ears. But like I said, the fleas are just going to all fly to the head. So you want to just make sure that you get the whole kitten, and then obviously you're not going to dunk them under the water. You're just going to run, I usually just use warm tap water to rinse the soap off. And then you could use a flea comb just to comb the fleas out. And then, especially if they're really little, you're going to want to make sure to dry them. You can use a hair dryer on a low setting, wrap them in a towel and hold them. But that you want to make sure that you provide some type of heat source, because it's very important for these kittens to maintain a warm body temperature since they can't do it on their own. It's our job to provide heat source for these guys. So, and there was an earlier question about, can you use dog shampoo on the kittens? I don't recommend it because you don't know what's in it. It could be too harsh for their little bodies. I always just have used Dawn, unless you have like a specific kitten shampoo. But with the really small ones, I wouldn't even use it on them. I'd use it on the older kitten shampoo on older kittens.
Thank you so much, Jamie. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. She's actually heading back to the clinic to help save more kittens' lives. So we really appreciate it.
All right.
You're awesome, and we're so happy that we work with you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
All right, guys, I hope that was really informative. Those were the top questions that we did get. Don't ever hesitate to reach out to us. So if you have more questions about fostering, you can find in our foster manual, if you can read through that, you can see a lot of your questions could probably be answered, but if not, you can always reach out to us. But I definitely recommend checking out the foster manual just in case that we have online. Again, I know I mentioned it earlier, but we do have the Kitten Lady and National Kitten Coalition are really great resources too. Today, I wish I really could have gone to detail about everything. I try to do just a nutshell, but I hope everything that we taught you guys today is helpful in the sense of knowing whether you might want to bottle feed or help solidify if it's for you or not. If it is for you, great, let us know. You can apply online. We have our foster application. You can either fill it out online and submit it, or you can download it, fill it out, save it, and then email it to us. Right now we're trying to get applications processed as fast as we can. It roughly takes about 2 weeks, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes less, depending on the flow of every day and appointments that we have coming in. But you can apply online. Again, if you were following today, we had some kitten resources that you can also check out. I'm missing a page to the front of this so you guys can see what it looks like, but that's okay. So anyways, we have, oh, here we go. There we go. I just shuffled it out. But these are some other resources you guys can check out. I just printed it in case to follow along. But we have things from bottle feeding, how to give kittens a bath, extra charge to know how much your kitten should be eating, weighing, stuff about stool and fleas, how to give a bath. So just a lot of general information. Things about like Pam Luke. And a chart that you guys can also download and use. So this is available online if you guys are interested, or you can reach out to us and we can send you a copy. Just let us know. But if there's any other questions that we can answer, apologies that we ran a little longer than an hour, but thank you guys so much for following us. We usually do this in person, and after we do the demonstration, we have you break up into groups and go with other kittens so you can try or get a closer look, and so you can see how the tongue latches, see the ears wiggle. But thank you guys again so much. Did we have any last minute questions that are popping up? Anybody?
You know, someone did ask, is toothbrushing necessary for kittens? And I think that's where, you know, they give them a nice little comfort
so
and...
I thought I had a toothbrush. Anyways, it's okay. Using a toothbrush is definitely really helpful. It is not necessary, but if you have a singleton kitten, meaning one kitten on its own, or kittens who are crying a lot, it might be because they're missing mom. So you can use a toothbrush to kind of just comb down them from like their heads to their tails. That stimulates mom's tongue licking them. Sometimes that can also help them, you know, if they're asleep and it's time for feeding, you can use that toothbrush to gently wake them up and then feed them. But that's a really great source that you can use as well. Anything, you know, any type of toothbrush will do just fine. I probably wouldn't use the one that you're using now to brush your teeth. I probably wouldn't use the old one that you were using before because it's going to smell like your toothpaste. At least I hope it would smell like your toothpaste. But you're going to want to make sure you use a clean brush. But those are really good. And you don't want to, you know, scrape on, just a gentle little, you know, brush down. Do we have any other questions?
No, I think everything's been answered.
All right. Thank you guys again so much for logging on here. Again, apologies that we ran over an hour, but I really want to make sure you guys are prepared. Don't hesitate to reach out. We will be sharing this later. Apologies for the technical difficulties that happened a little bit, you know, later into the into our shooting. But we really hope you guys enjoyed it, and really hope to see a lot of you guys become fosters if you're not already, and see some of you become bottle fosters if you're not already. But have a great rest of your guys' Saturday. Let us know. We are here, and we'll see you guys soon, hopefully. Thanks so much. And Fritz and Felix, say bye too, as well as Stormy.